seems that, and you correct me, that most of this agreement is all paperwork. It seems to me that
So many agreements are.
yes, and except that there is an opportunity for a county-wide vote on a millage.
On a funding mechanism.
On a funding mechanism, yes, thank you. On a funding mechanism. And there is also, if Ann Arbor does not, if the Ann Arbor voters do not approve the funding mechanism, there is the opportunity for council to withdraw from the agreement, which I think is, they don't have to withdraw, but they may withdraw. To me, those were the most important and elements where a voter might have some say.
Do you mind if I speak just to the
Yeah, go
withdrawal
ahead,
thing?
sure.
Yes, please.
Actually, the Articles of Incorporation, I think, will supersede the four-party agreement. If, as was pointed out, the four-party agreement is with the AATA, which, if a new authority is created, it will no longer be the AATA. The Articles of Incorporation are really what we need to look at, and that has a provision, the current draft has a provision saying that the Board of Commissioners may dissolve the authority if this happens. I have found that the fine print is sometimes important to read, and that's one of the reasons I've been expressing a lot of anxiety about this process, that I would like people to look at the fine print and what it really says, and to stop talking about we're just having a framework for discussion, because these are legal documents.
Right.
If I could jump in
Sure,
for just
please.
a moment. It is, you're right, it is more than a framework because it is a legal process. And, but it is not binding in the sense that once Ann Arbor or anybody else agrees to the four-party agreement, that there's no way of backing out of the countywide 196 authority. There are, in fact, those 15 steps that have to be gotten through, each one of which requires the vote of either an elected body or sometimes multiple elected bodies in the case of the townships, with the exception of the last one, which is where the Ann Arbor Transportation Authority Board formally dissolves itself.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Do you want? Yeah.
Yeah.
Are you agreeing that there are so many protections? By protections, I mean so many opportunities to, if you will, for Ann Arbor to opt out?
There are several opportunities to opt out. The most important one is if the Board of Commissioners does in fact pass the Articles of Incorporation and those articles are filed, which the current information is that would happen immediately. That's something I think that needs to be worked out, whether they would, but I believe they intend to immediately file the Articles of Incorporation. At that point, Ann Arbor would have 30 days, as would other municipalities
Not
to
the
opt
voters,
out.
not the voters.
No, I'm sorry,
Correct.
the City Council
The
of
City
Ann Arbor
Council, yes.
would have that opportunity.
Would have that opportunity.
The elected
Right.
Yes.
officials.
Right.
And of each of the townships.
Right.
Yes.
And
Right.
Ypsilanti City.
Right.
Each of the municipalities.
Each of
Yes.
the municipalities.
Yeah,
So-
jurisdictions.
So let's kind of jump to funding, okay? Because I want to get into that a bit. The Transit Master Plan Financial Task Force Subgroup was supposed to meet, that's a mouthful, was supposed to meet and put forth a plan. They didn't meet because of the multiple bills that the transit bills that were presented to the House the day before. This wasn't new, kind of knew it was coming. The Ann Arbor Chronicle talked about Rick Olson reporting on this in December, and then at the AAT board meeting, people came and spoke and said, you know, it's likely that we're going to have. So, in fact, there has been put forth enabling legislation for a regional transit authority and for the ability of local jurisdictions to assess vehicle registrations, as the Ann Arbor Chronicle had stated. So we have now before the House this comprehensive transit bill, many bills, I think 17, and one of them is really focusing in on the region. Do you want to talk about the counties that are included in this? Just briefly, yeah?
Yeah, sure. Wayne, Oakland, Macomb, and Washtenaw. And the House Bill 5309, which is the one that is the most detailed and covers this in in the greatest detail, is specifies that neighboring counties, adjacent counties, can get into the act if they want to, and if the Regional Transit Authority Board approves.
Right. So what is it, why don't you give us a few of the highlights, because it seems that there's and you can correct me, an overlap between the Transit Master Plan and what is being recommended in this 5309. Vivian, do you see it that way?
Well,
Or
the
not?
interpretation that AATA's management and staff, I guess is what I should say, has come up with is that AATA and sort of our part of the region would probably contract with this larger regional transit authority to provide those services. But I think there's a great deal of confusion about, well, for example, whether state and federal operating formula funds would go to the RTA to be redistributed back to Washtenaw County or not, because that would, of course, remove a lot of the flexibility from the local authority. If the RTA basically said, we'll contract with you for this much, but no more, then there could be a limitation on the funds available.
Yeah, if I could clarify, I attended a meeting last night, actually, in Detroit, at which Dennis Shornack and Jim Townsend spoke. Dennis Shornack is the governor's point man on the on this, and Jim Townsend is the state representative from Royal Oak who introduced this formally, and so they described it, and I have read the legislation, but it's complicated, but it's fairly clear if you read it carefully that the Regional Transit Authority will be the funding funnel, you might say, federal and state dollars, but it's also possible by a majority vote or a simple majority of the board of directors of the RTA for individual counties or groups of counties to apply on their own for federal funds. Okay. So there is flexibility in it.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, but some of the things that might be happening, or what about a tax? There could be a tax, right, on vehicle registration?
Vehicle registration fees.
Right, right. So it is possible that people in Ann Arbor would pay their 2.5, well, they're 2, and maybe pay something for countywide, and then on top of that, maybe have to pay regional. They're in one way or another.
I think, truthfully, that those
Who would
are
vote for
details
it?
that need to be
Right.
worked out. I think that there's a lot of lack of clarity how this rather complicated structure that we've been putting together
Right.
would operate in that context.
Right. I want to, we're running out of time, and I just want to quickly bring up the slide on the Transit Master Plan, Financial Task Force Subgroup recommendations, because this idea of they're wanting a millage, an increase of what, 0.5, correct? So here we have some of the things that the Financial Task Force is saying they want, and are leaving out really anything to do with commuter rail. They're saying that should be done at another time. And does that really dovetail with the regional also?
Actually, oh, you took down the
Oh,
slide.
could you put the slide back up? I'm sorry. Would you put the slide back up, please? Thank you.
Actually, the budget that they have does show money for the Washington Avenue corridor. It shows $2 million in the first 5 years. And also the fact that they are not, basically that subcommittee said these are really kind of outside, because they really decided they were about the public bus transit part.
Right.
Then they basically said, we can't really deal with these expensive parts. Put them over here
Yes.
and consider them later. But there would be nothing to keep an Act 196 authority from deciding they did want to do that. And you should know that AATA is formally the authority for Wally.
Yes, that's right. It is. But there's been my understanding is that the board has to approve each.
Yes, but I mean, it
Expenditure,
actually has
yeah.
that,
Yes,
that,
yes,
that responsibility
absolutely,
now.
absolutely.
Yes.
So there are many things, as we were saying, that the AATA is already doing that is very
Yeah.
much county-wide. And even Livingston County wasn't even really discussed, and the Wally is for Livingston County. We're going to have how much time? Oh, we have only 2 minutes left. So I had promised that I'm sorry, that I would give you an opportunity, just of 30 seconds, if there's something that we as voters, as the residents here, really should be paying attention to, that may come along that should be, should get our attention, whether it's about a millage or get it, new cost to us or something that we'll lose. Is there anything that you want to?
You're going to make me go first?
No, you don't.
No.
You don't have to go at all
right.
if you don't want.
Look,
you have
okay.
30
Let-
seconds.
Let me say first that the additional millage for the Ann Arbor city,
Right.
on top of the existing millage, is to improve the frequency and length of service of the existing bus routes in Ann Arbor. So it's not something that's put on for the outside.
Okay.
But the rest of the county is getting a relatively thin layer, according to the plan, which is really what we're paying for if we pay half a mil or a mil. So yeah.
I'm sorry, I don't agree that the improvement of service in Ann Arbor is the eventual consequence. And in fact, they've only promised to keep the same level of service
That
in the
is what
four-party
is-
agreement.
Right, right. Well, it went so quickly. I'm afraid we're going to have to leave it there. I want to thank you, Larry, and thank you, Vivian, very much for being so well informed and
It's
for
been a
sharing that
pleasure.
information
Yes.
with us. And I want to acknowledge some important resources for this program, which include the Ann Arbor Chronicle, Vivian's blog, Local in Ann Arbor, the AnnArbor.com, and for history, the Ann Arbor District Library. And I want to thank you for watching, and write to us with your comments and your suggestions. You know we like to hear from you, and that we always welcome other perspectives. Bye for now. Hope to see you next time.